Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Wednesday, June 26th. Before we get into the play of the day, we'll quickly recap what happened yesterday. The winning streak unfortunately ended as the Indians under 9.5 against the Kansas City Royals ended up going over. It was pretty unfortunate considering the fact that it was 6-3 headed into the top of the ninth, in which the Indians didn't have to bat in the bottom. And the Indians sent out Brett Hand, who was a 1.05 ERA as a closer. And he proceeded to give up roughly 5 straight hits, including a grand slam in which the Indians ended up choking away the game. Of course, for this sake, all the other runs were overkill. It was just a matter of one run. But if you ask me if I would feel confident in any bet needing a shutdown ninth inning with a closer with a 1.05 ERA, I'd pretty much take those odds at least 80% of the time. But unfortunately, the Royals woke up in the ninth, and our total bet was destroyed. So it happens. I still like the way the game played out. We had a chance to win in the top of the ninth. But I also can't really criticize what happened because that's how one of our streaks got started, as the Rockies Diamondbacks over from a couple of days ago ended up going over because of a poor closer performance. But overall, I'm not going to get discouraged from it. I thought that we had the right lean there. It just didn't work out in the end. But overall, we will look to bounce back with a win tonight. And we're going to be sticking with totals in today's card, and we're going to be looking specifically at a matchup between the Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Mets. And in this matchup, you will be having Nick Pivetta, who will be facing Jason Vargas. So far this season, Pivetta 4-2 with a 5.54 ERA, and Jason Vargas is 3-3 with a 3.75 ERA. However, Pivetta was awful in his last start, 5 1/3, gave up 6 earned runs. He has pitched against the Mets earlier this season. He went 5 innings, gave up 3 earned runs. But overall, the Mets hitters have done really well against him. And if you look at the total at bats, in 57 at bats, the Mets are batting .316 against them and have an on-base percentage of .382. So even though the Mets have lost each of the first 2 games of the series, both teams in the series have scored at least 12 combined runs in each of the first 2 games. So yesterday was 7-5. First day was 13-7. Mets have definitely hit the ball well. It's the issue of their bullpen blowing games late, and the fact that their starting pitching is not much to write home about. Vargas has been decent over the last couple of months, but he also just had a huge issue in the locker room cursing out a reporter, and I'm kind of curious if his focus is 100% there. But either or, I know that his numbers against the Phillies are pretty good, but I do like the way that the Phillies have been hitting lately, and I think the Phillies have been focused after losing 7 straight, and I personally like the over in this contest. It is currently available. It's pretty high. It's at 10.5 at -110 at Heritage, and that is the line we are going to be using. It also is worth mentioning that yesterday the wind was blowing out to right field, which definitely helped a couple of home runs by Rosario as well as Kingery. And today the weather is exactly the same. It's supposed to be roughly 88 degrees, and it will be blowing out to right field at 6 miles an hour. So it's basically identical wind conditions. And knowing the Mets bullpen, Vargas, even if he pitches well, should go roughly 5 innings or 6 innings. And then the Mets bullpen, which has the highest ERA since June, will most likely send out another below average pitcher who might blow this thing. Yesterday was Font, who ended up going 2/3 of an inning, gave 3 earned runs. Simply put, I don't like either starting pitcher. I don't like either bullpen. And both lineups have actually been performing pretty well over the last couple of days. And for that reason, I will be leaning to the over 10.5 in the Phillies and Mets game as the play of the day. Now I'll quickly give out some leans for the rest of the betting card. Couple of day games going on right now that already have started, so I'll skip those. You do have the Padres game, which starts in roughly 20 minutes between Strom and Bundy. I have to lean to the Padres and the over. A lot of money's coming on the Orioles, and to be honest, I don't really care. The Orioles are one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst team. And I know that a lot of that has to do with the fact that Strom's been inconsistent lately and the fact that the Padres are not using their usual lineup. They're benching a couple people. But overall, I know that, for example, Will Myers will not be playing. But overall, I don't think it really matters. The Orioles are terrible, and Machado's on a roll. Tatis is on a roll. Hosmer's been good lately, and I don't think it really matters who's in the lineup. I still lean to the Padres there. Moving on, you have the Dodgers versus the Diamondbacks with Clark versus Gonzalez. In terms of that game, I will lean to the over 9.5. Gonzalez a relative unknown. Clark has been extremely inconsistent this season. For the most part, he has not been great, and both teams have hit the ball pretty well so far in this series. So I will lean to the over 9.5. I think both teams should be able to score a decent amount of runs. and I think Gonzalez will struggle in his season debut. Moving on, you have the Rockies versus the Giants, and I will lean to the under 7.5 here. Our Giants got the win yesterday, but Bumgarner was on the mound against Chichi Gonzalez, so I don't think anyone's really surprised about that. I told you there was value on the Rockies. They were tied 1-1 in the fifth, but overall, Bumgarner won in the end. In terms of this start, both teams still hasn't hit the ball that well, and Marquez, despite not getting a decision in his last start, was fantastic against the Dodgers in his last start, and I think he will pitch well in this one. And I think that Samardzija has struggled recently, but I think he will get it back on track for this one, so we'll lean to the under 7.5. Mets I gave out as the play of the day. Moving on, you have the Rangers versus the Tigers with Minor versus Boyd. I will lean to the under 8.5 there. Simply put, I like both pitchers in this contest. Both teams will have to face lefties. Boyd's been great, especially at home, and Minor's definitely been a very underrated pitcher in the American League so far this season. Game yesterday didn't have that many runs, and I think that you'll see a similar trend in this one, plus the fact that Detroit can't hit won't help them against Minor. Lean to the under in that one. Moving on, you have the Nationals versus the Marlins with Corbin versus Gallen. And I will lean to the under 7.5 here. Corbin on an added layoff as he did not pitch in his last start, as he was ended up being replaced due to injury. But he is back now, and he is going up against Gallen. Gallen's an unknown, but it is in Miami's home stadium, so you should see less runs in general. I think Corbin will pitch well. The Marlins can hit. I'll lean to the under 7.5. Moving on, you have Wainwright versus Mangden with the Cardinals and the A's. I will lean to the over 9.5 here. Wainwright's a shell of his former self. His stuff isn't nearly as dynamic as it used to be, and Mangden has definitely not been anything to write home about this season. I think you'll see a decent amount of runs. I'll lean to the over 9.5. Plus, Oakland's bullpen's not great either. So I think even if Mangden struggles, then the bullpen will just compound the issue even further. So I will lean to the over in that one. Moving on, you have Atlanta versus Chicago. I will lean to the Cubs in this one. I know Darvish has been hit or miss this season, but Keuchel's only pitched in one game this season in which he did not pitch that well. And I think the Cubs will pretty much, I don't want to say dominate him, but I think they'll definitely give him a rude experience in Wrigley Field. I think the Cubs should score a decent amount of runs. Lean to the Cubs in that one. Moving on, you have the Reds versus the Angels with Barria versus Rourke. Lean to the Angels here. Reds were doing pretty well, then ended up losing 2 to the Brewers, lost the first game of this series. I think the Reds were overachieving last week and the week before, and I think they will crash back down to earth, and I think they will lose this one as well. Moving on, you have Seattle versus Milwaukee with Caracidi versus Hauser. Lean to the over 10 here. Simply put, I don't really trust either starting pitcher. I don't trust either bullpen. I like both lineups. Lean to the over in that one. Moving on, you have the Pirates versus the Astros with Valdez versus Grazel. I lean to the under 9.5. Grazel I actually thought was decent so far in his very young pro career. He's got decent stuff. He's 0-0 the 4.5 ERA. And Valdez has been pretty good this season, 3-3 the 3.61 ERA. I just think this total is a bit too high. I'll lean to the under 9.5 there. And the last game, you have the Tampa Bay Rays with Morton versus the Twins with Odorizzi. I will lean to the Twins here. Odorizzi, bit of a revenge spot here as he's going up against his former team in the Rays. Morton started off the season really well, has struggled a bit in his last couple of starts, and the Twins definitely got the Snell early yesterday, scored a decent amount of runs. I like the way the Twins played, and I think they'll carry that momentum into this one. Lean to the Twins in that one. But the play of the day, as I said before, will be on the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies full game over 10.5, which is available at -110 at Heritage. Before we conclude today's video, quick reminder of our sponsor, PointsBet. All in Sportsbook in New Jersey have a great deal for you. Up to 2 risk-free bets up to $1,000. So you are actually playing with house money for $2,000 and get to gamble it as you please. And if you lose, you end up getting your money back. And if you win, you get to get the rewards of winning a bet. So definitely a great deal there. I'm going to post a link in the description below if you are curious about it. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this installment of Scott's Selections here for Wednesday, June 26th. And good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.